Get ready for 2 hours of hard-hitting football talk, straight from their jocks about the jocks. It's Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome once again to another episode of Football on the Know. I am Jim McPhee, alongside of me is Mr. Joe DeCapita.
Welcome back, Know-It-Alls, for doing another edition of Football on the Know Show. We are locked and loaded, ready to go, and guess what? We finally made it. I mean, last week was Thursday night, preseason, but now the influx of games are here. We got tomorrow night, Thursday night, Friday night, and all day Saturday, and one little game on Sunday.
Oh, yeah, I'm totally excited, Joe. I mean, I was afraid before I got started here because I thought I didn't have a Raise energy drink and stuff, but Joe, I found the powders right there. I am saved. I got sour gummy worms ready to go. Joe's ready to go. Don't forget, guys, go to repsports.com and hit the promo code Raise Them Up, and you guys get 50% off there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Super excited about a lot of stuff. The NFL's kicking up. Like I said,
finally.
Week 2 now, some week 1s for a lot of teams. Again, all the teams going to get ready to get started. But also, big announcement with us, once again, Godzilla Media. Monday Night Football now has come to Football on the Know and Godzilla Media. So now Smoky Bones right here in Albany on Central Avenue is the home for Monday Night Football with Godzilla Media. You'll see us and a few other of our friends here with Godzilla Media Monday nights. Come check us out here if you guys want to come check out the game. That place is amazing. TVs everywhere. Sound speakers everywhere.
Yeah,
we're there.
It's going to be exciting because you know what? The other thing too is I haven't been to Smoky Bones in a little while. I mean, maybe they changed some things up, like you were mentioning.
Yeah.
Like they got TVs like in the booths and stuff like that. So that's going to be exciting to see and what have you. Check out all your games. It's going to be awesome.
Also, think about games, man. We happened to check out the NAL last weekend. We went to the Albany Empires game, and it was the championship game to go into the final championship for the Cup, and they just barely squeaked out a win here against the Cobras in an exciting game. We were happy to be on the field. I hope you guys checked out all the videos and the pictures we posted. We're going to be there at the next one this Saturday. We'll post some more videos and stuff like that, too.
Championship,
also
baby. Championship Sunday. Let's go.
Yes. So
Saturday night, for that matter.
We're excited, Joe. It's a lot of stuff to get to.
Woo!
We get to bring back a segment that we haven't done in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's been a while, right?
Oh, yeah. It's been a while. We love to do this all the time. It's fantasy time. We haven't talked fantasy yet. It's going to be coming up. Mm-hmm. And so, Joe, it's time to bring up our fantasy football keep or sweep. That's right, buddy. Here we go. It's the keep or sweep. That's it. Swipe that stuff away. So what we're going to do Rookies Edition. Again, we take a look at the top 24 2021 fantasy rookies here, and we kind of just go down them quick and see if they might be a relevant person to draft in your team, or you just kind of leave them alone and pass on them, whether they would be good for you for your points.
Or maybe they're a later pick that you might want to go ahead and grab because there's handcuffs. You can grab a nice handcuff player or a player that you think might be a deep dark horse sleeper that later on in the season could pay dividends for you.
Mm-hmm. All right, here we go. Let's roll the music, Joe.
Let's go.
Here's the list right here. Let's take a look at the list, and we'll just read them off here. Travis Etienne here for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The running back, he might be doing a little wide receiver reps too, as we heard with this team. Now, what do you think about him here? What kind of production could he do for your team?
Travis Etienne, here's the interesting thing about him is he's coming into a position that's already have a running back. James Robinson was the feature back for them last year who came on really strong and looks like he's going to continue being that featured back. So Travis Etienne is more like a PPR option, if you will. So if you're big into PPR, points per reception, that guy right there, Travis Etienne, could pay off, but I don't think he's going to be like that dramatic of a difference. He's not going to be like a starter you put in every single week. He's going to be more like a feel him out week to week type of a player, week to week, depending on what opponent that happens, and seeing how involved he gets into this offense. Having James Robinson there, that's going to be some getting used to. So it's kind of preseason's going to kind of maybe give us a glimpse at what we can expect for that kind of share the sharing of the football there between Robinson and Travis. But for me, as of right now, because we don't have enough to go off of with this offense, for me, it's a little bit of it's a sweep for me.
Gotta sweep.
Oh, he's sweeping.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's not a given starter and we don't know how much involved he's going to be in the week-to-week game plan. So that's kind of like where I'm at. Like if you're questionable, if I don't really know what to expect from you with the Jacksonville Jaguars offense, then we kind of got to wait and see on him.
Yeah, definitely. So again, like you said, what's going on with them? Yes, they have Trevor Lawrence there, but they got a good batch of wide receivers there too. So he might take a back door on that. And also, you can't forget about James Robinson. So we'll see here. So all right, we got Javonte Williams here for the Denver Broncos at running back. Joe, what do you got to say about this fella here? I mean, they're loaded in that backfield as well.
I was just gonna say that. Like they're so loaded at running back that it's like, who knows, right? I mean, they have Melvin Gordon there, who was their starter last year. Phillip Lindsay moved on now with the Houston Texans. So you would think like, oh, well, they got Royce Freeman, who's been waiting to be a bigger part of the offense. They've got other guys, and they always seem to find younger, under the radar type of running backs, and they never have that's never a weakness for them. So. For Javonte, for them to go out and draft this guy and bring him into this really deep, running back position, it's kind of the same thing with Travis with the Jaguars. I don't know where he's going to fit in. Is he going to get playing time? Absolutely. But is it going to be just goal line? Is it going to be short yardage, once in a while to spell, say like Melvin Gordon? So because of the uncertainty, he's also going to be a sweep for me.
Gotta sweep.
Sweeping away. Joe is sweeping away on these guys.
So far, right?
So far on the list, yeah. But let's take a look at
what
here.
What do we got next?
Next, we've got Devonta Smith here
there
for Philadelphia, wide receiver. They've been looking for another wide receiver here. They kind of
another weapon.
Got people scratching heads when they picked up Jalen Reagor there.
Mm-hmm.
And this, besides that, the wide receivers have been a problem here for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now they go and get Devonta Smith, one of the bigger, flashier type of receivers that were in this draft.
Mm-hmm.
What do you got to say about this? What kind of effect could he have for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Usually rookie wide receivers when they're coming in on their first year. Now I think he's definitely going to start. That's a given. We already know that. So for me, usually rookie receivers don't pan out and pay huge dividends right away. So because of the history of that, and you look at the Philadelphia Eagles right now, like Jalen Reagor, it's his second year. He's gonna improve tremendously from his first year. Travis Fulgham, who kind of broke out last season and made a name for himself with the Philadelphia Eagles. So you have a nice 1-2 punch right there already. And here comes Devonta Smith. I think he's definitely going to be involved in this offense. It's just because he's a rookie, because it's his first year, I don't have super high expectations for him as of right now, because they already have two receivers in place that can handle the workload. So I think he's relevant. I think he's definitely a receiver that you can draft maybe later on. But, to me, because he's a starter, I think I'm going to keep him. But I would put a disclaimer on that, and I would say don't draft him early. Just don't draft him early in the draft. He could be a nice sleeper for you later in the draft, maybe 10th to 15th round, somewhere in there, when you can go ahead and attack some of these rookies that possibly are going to be starting.
Mm-hmm. All right, there you go. So we have a keeper and possibly a sleeper right there as well.
Right.
All right, so let's tell it. And there, everybody knows his name now here, too.
Oh,
He's already a Hall of Famer in some people's eyes already. I saw some rankings that the NFL was putting over, and it was quarterback rooms, top quarterback rooms of all the NFL teams. Then they did top wide receiver rooms, and they did running back rooms. So the list was kind of ridiculous. So you guys check that out on NFL.com. Oh, my gosh. But, again, Trevor Lawrence was ranked before a bunch of people. It was crazy. But Trevor Lawrence, here you go. He's got to be the starter for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and a lot of hype behind him here. But is he? Are you confident now? That's the thing in grabbing him as your starter for your team, or is he going to be your backup? That you spot in for a week or so.
Here's the one thing that people kind of make a mistake over and over every single year with quarterbacks is everybody wants a flashy quarterback and they want to pick him early. It's like Patrick Mahomes usually goes in the first round or no later than the second round, right? Mm-hmm. And you got all these guys like Lamar Jackson. Everyone's like super into because they can run, they can throw the ball, they can do a lot of different things, and score a lot of fantasy points for you potentially. Trevor Lawrence, I always recommend don't take a quarterback early. Just don't take one. There is way more important positions like running back and receiver that you need to really kind of divulge on it and just add like crazy onto your roster. So with Trevor Lawrence being a rookie coming into this league, we all know it's not a walk in the park. Some guys thrive, some guys just take a dive. So for Trevor Lawrence to come in, there is very high expectations of him because being the number 1 overall pick, you're expected to basically just all of a sudden change the culture of the team, change the winning percentage, change everything, put W's in the column and what have you. So a lot of pressure is on Trevor Lawrence this season, even though it's his rookie year, to perform right away. I'm going to sweep on him. And there's a reason for it, is because he is a rookie quarterback coming in. We don't know how he's going to react to the NFL as of right now. And with the defenses that are going to try to figure him out as the season progresses, maybe they confuse him a little bit. I know he's a really smart kid and all, but again, he's a rookie coming in, and you don't need to take a quarterback early. So if I'm taking my quarterback like in the later rounds before the draft is over, and Trevor Lawrence most likely will still be there, even though he's the starter. There's so much uncertainty on how good he's going to perform. So because of that, I'm going to sweep on him. Sorry.
Gotta sweep.
There you go. He's sweeping again, man. The broom is getting heavy today, man. It's getting used a lot.
Cleaning up.
There you go. Jalen Waddle now, the wide receiver from the Miami Dolphins here. What do you guys say about him and his production that he can do here for
Jalen Waddle is another gifted receiver, much like Devonta Smith, both coming from Alabama. Both were like elite type of receivers in college. So there's a lot of high expectations of him as well, too. Coming over with the Miami Dolphins, selecting him and adding them to a much-needed wide receiver room. You got guys like Devontae Parker who usually can't stay healthy, so you don't know what you're going to get with him. Preston Williams got injured last year. He's coming back from an injury. So will he last all year? So you got some question marks there already. How healthy can they be throughout the season? And with Jalen Waddle, he's coming in as a guy that doesn't get injured. He's healthy all the time, so he's going to be there. And because of that, because of the uncertainty of this receiving core and how healthy they can sustain it and for how long, for me, Jalen Waddle I know it's his rookie year. I don't think he's going to pay huge dividends right away, but he's a nice guy to keep on your roster, and you can play him week to week depending on what your situation is when bye weeks come by, and you can. So for me, he's a keeper because not only is he going to be a starter, definitely from day one, you just don't know how long those other two with Devontae Parker and Preston Williams, how long they're going to be healthy for. And not to mention, Will Fuller is also a member of the Miami Dolphins this year, coming over from free agency. How healthy will he last? So you got 3 receivers that potentially could all be gone by mid-season, and then you still got Waddle to be able to throw to. So
Absolutely. There you go. Bringing out another keeper. All right, now we've got Rashod Bateman here. Now we're seeing with the injuries, multiple weeks. So that is going to deter a lot of people, I think, from picking him up.
For sure.
So, I mean, that one, I guess, for now, we'd have to sweep away, right? I mean, unless you get late rounds, see when he comes back, possibly.
It's exactly that. Like, when you're filling your roster out, like with Rashod Bateman, and here's another thing you got to take into consideration is when you're drafting is also what kind of offense are you drafting from? Because the Baltimore Ravens, we all know they're a run-heavy offense. They don't throw the ball a ton. So you got to think about that, too. So for Rashod Bateman, as much as I love the kid coming out of college, I absolutely love this guy. I think he's going to be one of the better receivers in the league when he gets fully developed. But as of right now, because he's missing time, if you want to go ahead and take just take a flyer if you need to fill in receiving core like for depth or something late in the draft, and he's there, I would go ahead and take him. But for me, as of right now, injuries are coming into play and so forth. And he's on a heavy run type of offense. So it's a sweep for me.
Gotta sweep.
There you go, sweeping away. There we go. Now we've got Justin Fields here. Talking about loaded backs and stuff like that. We're talking about the quarterbacks here for this team, where we're hearing people saying that maybe that the Colts should go and get Nick Foles to help out, because Carson Wentz might be injured for a few weeks. Andy Dalton also there too. That he's named that Matt Nagy said Andy Dalton's our guy, but again, Justin Fields sitting there waiting in the waiting here to become that starter. That's why they drafted him this year. So again, you take a stab at Justin Fields. late rounds as your backup? You keeping this guy? You think you're going to jump in on this, or just again sweep it away? And who knows if it happens to be injuries or they do make the switch, jump on it.
And that's the thing is you hit the nail on the head right there when you mentioned it. Is if you want a backup, like if you want a guy that that could be like a sleeper backup that. We all know that it sounds like right now out of Chicago, Fields is not going to be the guy week one. They are real comfortable with Andy Dalton leading the Chicago Bears. However, Justin Fields right now is lighting it up in training camp. And he's had some pretty darn miraculous throws. I mean, like throwing it the opposite way while he's running to his left and just kind of sidearming it into the end zone. So there's some highlights that he's already showing off to Chicago and saying, hey, don't count me out just yet. So I strongly disagree with the decision so far of having Andy Dalton being the starter. When you got a guy, if he can learn the offense, he should be your week one starter. So if you want to take a chance on Justin Fields, now this is only if you want to take a chance on a guy like this. And late in the draft, if you're looking for a backup and you want to take a guy like Justin Fields, who I really do believe eventually will be the starter for Chicago this season, I would keep him. But, again, it's only for a guy that you can just add to your roster as a backup. Maybe you can throw him in. It's taking a chance because of the way Chicago and how set they are on that decision. But yeah, for me, I would keep him, but it would only be if like a depth draft.
Just again, and you could probably people who knows, maybe in drafts you know this when you guys play that there's always somebody too that might just draft out of the realm of what you might expect.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
There could be a cow or a Bears fan that expects this to happen.
Right.
And he's like loves this guy and then jumps right on it and then forgets about even Nick Foles or Andy Dalton, something
or
like
someone
that.
just
and
falls
it's like
in
he gets
love
drafted
with a
before
player.
those guys possibly, because usually those guys don't even get drafted in these 12-person leagues and things like that. So. Yeah, who knows?
If
it's just kind of funny the way it ends.
Because
if he slides down later on, again, nice little piece to add on.
Don't panic if it happens. It's okay. Like some people have fallen in absolute love with certain players and like, I want him. I'm going to get him. I'm taking him early no matter what. And they do that, and you're like, oh, I wanted to get him later. But it's okay. There's plenty of players to draft. It's fine.
Absolutely. All right. So what do we got next? Let's move it right over. We've got Trey Lance, a guy again who we've heard is just going to feel things out too. A little slower picking up the offense here. It's Jimmy G's job. We're hearing out of the 49ers here, Joe. So. I mean, are you just sweeping automatically with this guy?
No. It's a very difficult situation for Trey Lance because coming out of college, he didn't really throw the ball a heck of a lot. They were more of a running team, and when he was asked to throw, it was like once in a blue moon. So there's a lot of development that has to go into Trey Lance's game. Listen, he's performing very well in training camp with the San Francisco 49ers, and but they do have a veteran in Jimmy G. And it sounds like, what's his face from the 49ers, the coach
Kyle
there.
Shanahan?
Kyle Shanahan.
I did that the other like 2 weeks ago, right?
Kyle Shanahan. Like it sounds like he's pretty set on the decision that Jimmy G will be their starting quarterback going forward. There's no no real quarterback competition, if you will. So because of that, because of the absolute confidence that Shanahan has in Jimmy G. Now here's the other thing too is. You can have all the confidence in the world for Jimmy G, but can he stay healthy is his biggest problem. So Trey Lance may be thrust into the starting lineup because Jimmy G can't stay healthy. So for me, there's too many variables. I don't feel 100% confident in Trey Lance right now. So it would be a sweep for me.
Gotta sweep.
But again, there's a lot of moving parts to this because if Jimmy G can't stay healthy, he's the guy then. You know what I mean? So he might be a guy where you could just not bother drafting him. Maybe nobody touches him, and he'll be there on the free agency wire for you in case that does occur.
All right, moving on. We've got Elijah Moore for the New York Jets, wide receiver. And they've needed some wide receivers for some time for them. And it's funny because I heard Mike Tenenbaum talk about some old times that they had and stuff, and Brett Favre, and he brought up Lavernius Coles and stuff like that.
Wow.
I'm like, wow. I'm like, that's kind of maybe back when they had even some wide receivers, Wayne Corbett, Lavernius Coles, and things. And It's been that time, so that much time there for these guys. So they got Elijah Moore. They're excited about having him there with the organization. Zach Wilson, the quarterback. What do you think so far out of the Jets? I mean, do some people veer away from the Jets here because they were in such a shambles last year? Or are they really excited here with Robert Saleh and what's going to go on with this
There's
team?
a lot of uncertainty with the New York Jets. Absolutely. There's a lot of changes, a lot of moving parts. You have a rookie quarterback coming in. You got some new pieces added, especially their offensive line is kind of like reinvented. So a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that still got to be, a lot of questions that still got to be answered. But with Elijah Moore, I feel like he's going to be like a rotational piece. Like he's going to come in. They still have Jamison Crowder for one more year. So I am on the understanding that Elijah Moore will eventually take over his role probably next season. But before that happens, I think he'll rotate in. I don't know how much he's going to be utilized. Yes, he's going to get on the football field because they didn't draft him for no reason. But again, I just don't know how much he's going to get on the field. So because of that, it's going to be a sweep for me.
Gotta sweep, sweep, sweep.
There you go, sweeping away. Man, the brooms are heavy today. Here we go. All right, we got next is Rondale Moore here for the Arizona Cardinals. You want to talk about stacked wide receiving core now as well. We got the Arizona Cardinals there. But who knows? I don't know. Maybe with some of these guys, like we've talked about plenty of times, these other receivers that they have here. Andy Isabella been in part of this team, but also not jumping out at some point here. So
right.
Is Rondale Moore going to be one of those guys that's a nice rookie surprise here, or exception for a lot of people, especially fantasy-wise?
Rondale Moore's kind of in the same situation of Elijah Moore. Going to be a rotational piece for the offense. Because when you look at the Cardinals' offense, they're already stacked. They got two young guys in Christian Kirk and Andy Isabella, who Christian Kirk has given more opportunity, obviously, than Isabella, but still, they're kind of still like they got to prove us something. They got to show us something. They got to prove it. But then on top of that, they bring in A.J. Green. They have DeAndre Hopkins. So with those four wide receivers already ahead of him, yes, he'll rotate in. Hey, maybe he'll make a couple of big splash plays or something like that week to week. But Rondale Moore, he's kind of in that rotational role. So myself, I like to stack my roster with guys that are going to definitely be on the football field with starters. So Rondale Moore, yeah, I'm sorry, buddy, you got to be swept.
Gotta sweep, sweep, sweep.
Boom, sweeping away. All right.
But that doesn't take anything away from those two talented guys. If you want to take them late in the draft, just stash them away on your depth chart there, and maybe as the season goes on, maybe it changes.
That's the thing too. With it, when you draft for your fantasy too, you want to load up on some players there too, just in case. Again, injuries happen all the time, and then if somebody needs to go to pick up a player, you've got them. They're going to be making some trades, and then you could benefit from that as well. So a lot of different variables here, and again, A.J. Green injured a lot, especially the last couple of years. He goes down, these guys bump up, he bumps into a spot possibly or something like that. Anything can happen. We've seen number one picks go down for the whole season. So, all right, next we've got Trey Sermon here. This for San Francisco, the San Francisco 49ers. Running back again. A lot of running backs back there. How much time will he really get? Will it be just, again, to stack your running backs, potentially a nice fill-in if you have to?
This is going to be a situation you want to monitor because Raheem Mostert, who's projected to be the starter, is coming back from an injury. How much is that going to affect him this year? It kept him out for most of the season last year. So with Trey Sermon coming in, a young stud as a running back, a guy that can do it all. He was very impressive when he was with Ohio State in college. I fully expect him to really push Raheem Mostert and possibly win the job. And if he doesn't, he'll at least be on the football field. I think they're going to definitely do some. They're going to split the carries a little bit here between Trey Sermon and for Raheem Mostert. So for me, for a sleeper, a guy who could possibly not only win the job but be a big cog for this 49ers running game as Trey Sermon, he's going to be a little bit of a keeper for me, but I'm not going to take him early. He's going to be one of my guys I'm going to take for one of my backups on the bench.
Yay! All right, there you go. Somebody just, again, grab him as your backup and poke him in there if you need him.
Because running backs and receivers are really big. You need to be super deep in those two positions especially because just like Jim mentioned, injuries happen. And when they start to happen, sometimes they happen to your certain fantasy buddies, and they're getting decimated by them. Like there are 4 guys just got injured and they're all out for the year, all out for extended time. You need to replenish those spots. So go ahead and go grab a guy like Trey Sermon in the running back position and stash him away.
All right, again, another Jet here. Michael Carter here on the top 24 list. We just talked about a couple of guys, Elijah Moore and some others. So,
yeah.
What do you think about with the running backs here for him?
I mean, for the Jets, there's really nobody that's going to stand in the way of Michael Carter starting. Listen, if he learns the offense, if he's comfortable, he's going to be the starter. I feel like they knew they had to draft a running back because they didn't address a whole lot in free agency. So Michael Carter's coming in. He's got a clean slate to win this job easily. And if he does, he's going to be the number 1 guy for the Jets. So for me, he's a keeper just based on his availability and his potential to just be the starter for them.
All right, next, moving on to the top of the list here over here. Terrace Marshall Jr. for the Carolina Panthers at wide receiver.
Terrace Marshall's in another kind of a situation where he doesn't have to start right away. He doesn't have to be pushed into the lineup right away. They have DJ Moore. They got Robbie Anderson and company. So Terrace Marshall can learn from underneath them. He'll get in. He'll rotate in. But because of that, because he's not going to be asked to do a whole lot, he's a sweep for me.
Boom.
Gotta sweep.
All right, here we go. Next, Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Detroit Lions here at wide receiver. Joe, Lions struggling again, one of the worst teams in the NFL. Been looking for some of those wide receivers. They had Marvin Jones at times and Calvin Johnson, who just got enshrined in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
But since then, injuries and things like that. Kenny Golladay, they lose to the Giants. So what do you think about this young man here for the Detroit Lions with now Jared Goff as the quarterback?
And that's true. They've been struggling, but they're rebuilding now. And now they're starting the rebuild. They got a new coaching staff, a new head coach who not only looks like a Lion, but he just talks like all kinds of, trash
Craziness.
talk to we're going to chew your kneecaps off. You know what I mean? Like, he's a very intense coach, and I think the players are really enjoying it.
Go stupid.
So for Amon-Ra St. Brown, I've heard there's a lot of optimism for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I liked him coming out of college, and apparently he's lighting it up so far in practice and training camp, what have you. Let's see what he can do in preseason, but all indicators as of right now is that he could be an impactful player for the Detroit Lions, who are looking for that it factor at wide receiver. So again, I'm gonna say keep, but I'm also saying you definitely don't want to take him early. You don't want to waste your draft pick. There's a lot of other receivers to take ahead of these guys. So, he could be a nice sleeper for you to take later in the draft and kind of stash him away.
Absolutely. Moving on to now Cadarius Toney here. The Giants got in the first round. Explosive when he gets the ball in his hands and stuff. Can move move his legs around, make quick direction changes.
Very shifty.
Again, had some issues earlier on in the rookie camps and stuff, but it seems like he's working some stuff out. What do you think about this young man here, Joe?
Cadarius Toney, I'm a fan of Cadarius Toney. Coming out of college, he is going to work on his hands a lot, and we've seen it in training camp. He's been working very diligently on improving his hand skills and catching the ball. But Cadarius Toney, like you said before, he's quick, shifty. He's hard to get a read on, but runs great routes. And like you said, he's got that speed factor. So for the Giants, for this season being his rookie year, he's not going to be asked to do a whole lot. The Giants have guys that are veterans in front of him already, so he'll be kind of like a rotational piece, a guy that comes in on certain situations. And because of that, it's a sweep for me, just because he's not going to have to be that guy right now.
All right, yeah, exactly. Again, the depth that they have. Switching right over here. Now we've got Zach Wilson for the Jets as well.
Again.
A lot of Jets on here. See, that's the thing. And I think there's a lot of brooms going on here. They're getting swept away.
All right.
But Zach Wilson here, again, he's going to be their starter.
He's going to be the starter.
So
yes.
he's the guy. He's the guy that's got to try and lift this team out from the ashes. But what kind of production is he going to have here? Again,
True.
You have these other quarterbacks here that are going to be your starters, mainly throughout the season. Do you put all in on Zach Wilson as your starter? Probably not. You know what I mean? He's got to be one of your backups potentially if you want it. For me, he's probably going to be floating out there and I don't think I would draft him. But, Joe, what do you got here?
I mean, much like Trevor Lawrence, because he's a rookie, because he's coming into the NFL atmosphere. You know what I mean? There's going to be a lot demanded of him, a lot of pressure. And can he, just like Trevor Lawrence, can they both kind of, weather the storm, not get too into the moment? Can they just play football? They're going to do their best on learning as much as the offense as they possibly can. And I think that they'll be okay in that area because they're both really smart guys. But for Zach Wilson, again, there's going to be a lot asked of him, and you don't need to take a rookie quarterback right now. Unless you are fully convinced that you think these guys are going to be such difference makers to their team that you want them as a starter. But with all the quarterbacks that are available to you in fantasy, when you look at Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson or something like that, those guys are going to be guys that you want to grab like late in the rounds, that you can stash away and wait and see how good they can play week to week. And maybe they could develop to be your starting quarterback, halfway through the season. But all in all, it's going to be a sweep for me because of the uncertainty.
All right, there you go.
Gotta sweep.
All right, we've got our first comment.
We got a know-it-all
here.
in here.
That's right. We've got a know-it-all in the house.
We do.
It is our man Mike Tackett in the house with us.
What's
tonight.
going on, Mike?
All right, we're going to interrupt this segment here just for him. In the ever-changing world of college sports, what do you guys think of the policy in place that allows underclassmen who declare to go back to school? Should they go undrafted, similar to the NBA's draft withdrawal policy? What do you think, Joe?
I mean, that's a good question.
It is a good question.
To go back to school, should they go undrafted? I would say yes.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that you would go undrafted, and here's my thing too is for this whole thing to work out. Like if you go undrafted, then you're a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
You can sign because that's kind of like how it is. Like you got undrafted free agents. If they don't get drafted that year, they become undrafted free agents, and they're just waiting for a phone call. Mm-hmm. So if that situation was to play out, the way the NFL is constructed right now, that's what would happen. Mm-hmm. Is not only you would go undrafted, but also then you would be a free agent that a team could call at any given moment and say, hey, we know you're in school right now, but you want to come play for the Jacksonville Jaguars? Mm-hmm. Do you want to come play for the New York Giants? You want to play for Green Bay Packers? You know what I mean? So that's kind of interesting. So I would think that the NFL would have to change their policy then too, because you don't want teams to be able to have that kind of power where they could call a student athlete up in the middle of the season or a month into the season while they're going to school and they're playing for like the Clemson Tigers or something like that, mm-hmm. and all of a sudden you get a phone call from the Las Vegas Raiders and saying, hey, we really like your tape. We want to bring you in for a workout. We want to possibly start you. You know what I mean? So there's got to be some kind of policies and some kind of changes for the NFL to prevent that kind of thing from happening. So if that was the case, if they go undrafted and they allow free agency to happen because that's the way it's constructed right now, mm-hmm. that would hurt the student athlete. It would hurt college football because then you would have all these teams calling out of the whim. Oh, we lost 3 guys this past week due to injury. We really like your play on the football field. We want to call you up. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just ripping them right out of college like that. So, that's kind of that's a really tough situation altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're already hearing stories about even it was with Trevor Lawrence and some other players too, where if they see the team that's creeping towards the number 1 pick, would you go play with them? Like, well, I don't know, maybe I'll go back to school now or whatever, and like hem and haw
Money
about
talks,
it.
Man.
And yeah, I know, I hear you there, and that's the stories that I'm coming up here. And how much leverage do they have? And again, like you said, any team can go through and make the phone call. So will we see some of those more enticing teams, almost like the way in the college game as it is, Alabama building the superpower here that they are to go in and recruit and grab these guys. Right. Will you see something like that familiar there with the NFL as well? Mike Tackett here says, I think that the NIL situation changes that. So there you go. Look at that. Look at the Ohio State quarterback Quinn Ewers leaving his high school teammates to make money at OSU.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing is like now that you got money involved, you're going to see players. And hey, it is what it is. Like now that's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to make money for your family. It's an opportunity to make money for yourself. Maybe even get out of a bad environment that you've been trying to get out of. So you're going to see this happen. This isn't a shock to me. As soon as, and do I agree with it? Like yes, colleges make money off of these athletes all the time. They until now they weren't able to get sponsorships. And get sponsor deals and get money that way while they're in college. So now that it's a new thing, you're going to see certain decisions being made by high school students, much like Quinn, much like Quinn Ewers. Now he's decided to skip his senior year, go to Ohio State, make some money because he knows that sponsors are going to be all about him because he's the number one recruit at quarterback right now. I don't blame the kid. I also think that colleges and people around the sport knew this was going to happen. They had to know. I mean, before they even voted on this. So and just like with the whole NFL thing about not being drafted. If you're eligible, you're not being drafted. You can go back to school, change your mind, go back to school, but then you're going to be on call. And I think it's a scary thing kind of because I feel like it's going to rush the student athlete up to the NFL before they're even close to being developed. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, NFL teams are going to understand that. They're going to develop them and everything, but it might hinder their development because they're being pushed up way too soon, and then they're going to be spit out by the NFL and not have an education and not be financially stable.
Yes, exactly. I hear you there. Absolutely. All right, so moving on here with the good questions here, Mike Tackett.
Great questions.
Let's moving on to now we're at Dyami Brown here for the Washington football team. Wide receiver now. They've got Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel now, and some weapons there. So what do you think about his spot here potentially for fantasy?
Well, we know that the Washington football team, they've been in dire straits to get wide receivers in there. They just haven't had any. Besides Terry McLaurin, he's been the only guy that they can depend on. Now they bring in a guy like Curtis Samuel who's going to be a nice complement, nice number 2 for them. Dyami Brown, that kind of opens up the opportunity here for him. Even though he's a rookie, maybe he can come in, he can be on the football field a little bit more, can be a little bit more involved. So I mean, this is interesting to me, but just because he's a rookie coming in, I think he's going to have opportunity, but I don't know how much of it he'll get. I think he'll be on that lower tier type of rotation, like maybe 3rd to 4th type of wide receiver in the end when it's all said and done. So for me, it's a little bit of a sweep here.
All right.
Sweep.
All right. Next up, we have Amari Rogers for the Green Bay Packers
there
here.
we go.
Again, we talked about Aaron Rodgers wanting to get wide receivers up in the business here, and they go out and get Randall Cobb. I'm not so sure about that, but whatever Aaron wants, he gets. So, but we got Amari Rogers. Now with there, I tell you, he's gotten a lot of good
a lot of accolades so far.
Definitely. And if you look at Aaron Rodgers, his chemistry with likewise names, Aaron Jones, he ends up getting really along with. Now this guy's Rodgers at the end. Maybe these guys link up. Who knows? Let's see. What do you think, Joe?
Amari Rogers. I mean, listen. There's a lot of rumors coming out of Green Bay where they're saying that they're absolutely in love with this kid. He's gonna be involved. Obviously, I think he's gonna be involved, but so isn't everybody else that they've had on this roster for so long. So, because of that, I mean, you got what's his name, Allen. I forgot the receiver's name.
Allen Lazard?
Allen Lazard, that's it.
Yep.
But Allen Lazard, he was kind of like that possession receiver that Rodgers would rely on, to move the chain, sort of speak. And Amari Rogers, he doesn't have super top end speed, so he could be kind of along those same lines. But with the depth that Green Bay does have, I mean, it's not tremendous. But now that you have Cobb, you bring in Cobb, he's kind of like, if Cobb was in his prime, Amari Rogers is kind of similar to that. So I think later on, maybe next season or whatever, he'll be more dominant into this offense as long as Rodgers is still there. That's up in the air. But for me, he's going to be a sweep for me because there's a lot of variables and a lot of hurdles that he has to overcome in order to be that impactful.
All right, moving along. Dwayne Eskridge here. So what do you think here for Seattle, the Seattle Seahawks?
Another kid, straight out of college, coming into the Seattle wide receiver room. Now, they already have guys like DK Metcalf. They got Tyler Lockett. Those are the go-to guys. And Seattle is a heavy run team. So much like the Baltimore Ravens, when a rookie receiver comes in on a heavy run team, you can't really expect a whole lot of production. So same thing applies here with Seattle. Dwayne Eskridge, I'm sorry. I do like this kid, but I'm going to sweep on him right now.
Sweep.
Man, everybody's getting swept under the rug on this one, just about. Here we go. Now we're at Pat Freiermuth here for the Pittsburgh Steelers here at tight end. You know that they've had some issues at tight end as of late, I think, as well. And Big Ben on his last season, it seems like, for these guys, last hurrah. What do you think? Where do you think he fits along here for tight ends? Because even you see with tight ends, they have a certain amount of a tier kind of with tight ends.
Yeah,
you got your upper echelons, which is a handful or so, and then it kind of gets watered down.
And we all know that, if you don't take a tight end semi-early, then you're going to miss out on those elite tight ends. And then you're kind of playing with mid-tier guys that week to week they could disappoint you. They could do well or well enough. So it's a lot of up. It's like almost like a roller coaster you're riding in the tight end position.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Because of that, with Freiermuth coming in with the Pittsburgh Steelers, again, he's going to be seen as like a lower tier type of tight end right now. He's got to prove himself. But with this team, you just don't know how much he's going to be used with this offense. They got Chase Claypool, they got JJ back, or Juju back. So I mean. And let's face it, they didn't really use tight end that much. I mean, they use tight end, but it's not to the extent where, like, you could be like, oh, well, it's like a Mark Andrews, for Baltimore, where they're just going to pepper the tight end. So because of that, and I think there's better options out there in the tight end position. So until he proves otherwise, he's a sweep as well.
All right, there you go.
Sweep.
All right, moving right along, we've got Chuba Hubbard for the Carolina Panthers at running back. Joe, what do you got here? Because this is an
Christian
interesting
McCaffrey.
one.
That's all I got to say is Christian McCaffrey is the guy. He does everything for Carolina. People are going to say, well, he's coming off an injury. He could get re-injured, that sort of thing. But normally he doesn't. He's a pretty healthy guy. He had, a little bit of a down year last year because of that mishap. But I truly expect Christian McCaffrey to come back strong and be able to just play out the whole year. Hubbard's still going to get, obviously breathing reps. He'll come in and out to spell Christian McCaffrey, but other than that, he'll be a sweep for me.
Sweep.
A guy that maybe, if that scenario does happen where injury does occur, you can pick
people
him
will
up
be
off
jumping
free
up
agent
on
wire.
there. Yeah, they'll be jumping for him. And then also next up we have Mac Jones for the New England Patriots. Now, how short is this leash, I guess, on Cam Newton? Because,
Pretty
Bill
short.
Belichick's out there saying how much he loves him.
Oh,
And he's a starter and this and that.
Yeah.
And you've got Cam Newton out there calling Mac Jones mac and cheese and everything and stuff like that. So I don't know how real friendly that is. It could be, but it's kind of interesting because, again, we talked about it before the draft that Mac Jones was going to be a perfect fit for the New England Patriots.
Absolutely.
And he's looking pretty good for them as well, in camp so far. So everything looks like the stars are aligning for this guy. And where's the ticker? How long is it going to take before they do pull the trigger on this one?
And that's the thing with Mac Jones is he's going to go through rookie mistakes. It's not like this kid's going to come in and just be like Tom Brady 2.0 all of a sudden. I really believe in him with the New England Patriots, and I think it was an absolutely perfect fit for him. Very, very smart quarterback. He's a fast processor of the plays and everything like that. Very accurate passer, and he's definitely more mobile than Tom Brady. So Cam Newton, with him being there, it gives him a nice insurance policy. But I think, really, in the end, with all the additions that the Patriots did make offensively, defensively, what have you, I think that Mac Jones, if he's the starter week one, I really do think this offense will excel under him. Cam Newton, we all know that they've changed the playbook a little bit to fit Cam's style, but it didn't work out last year. We've seen him for the first time, and I don't know how long they had a losing season. You know what I mean? So why not? If Mac Jones is ready in terms of knowing the playbook and being able to attack the plays and get them right, I think he could easily be the starter week 1 and kind of grow into that role as the season progresses. So because we don't know if he's going to start or not, he's going to sweep.
Absolutely. So there he is, a sweep again.
Sweep.
And we've got 2 more left over. We've got Nico Collins for the Houston Texans, Joe, a wide receiver where they are desperate for wide receivers. I think at that list, the wide receiver list, they were like 32nd possibly in this whole thing.
Right.
So.
I mean, really, what they got? Brandon Cooks and then whoever wants to put pads on for Houston. So Nico Collins is a real opportunity for Nico to come in and possibly be one of those contributors on offense. We still don't know who the quarterback's going to be. The jury's still out on that. So if you want to, I'll say, like, as of right now, they got Brandon Cooks, and I really don't know where this offense is going to be headed. So Collins could be a nice sleeper. They do have Kiki Cutie still there. He looks like he's going to end up starting as well. But nonetheless, if the opportunity is there, you could take this guy late in the late rounds. If you want to take a flyer and say, what the hell, if he doesn't work out, you cut him from your roster and replace him. But for me, it's a sweep because this organization is just heading down the toilet.
All right, and finally, Josh Palmer for the Los Angeles Chargers.
And Josh Palmer right now, he's second behind Keenan Allen. So unless Keenan Allen goes down or Mike Williams goes down or something like that, I don't really expect too much from Josh Palmer. He'll get in on rotational play, but it's not enough for a spot on your roster, so he's a sweep as well.
Boom, and that's it. We're sweep. I think you've only kept like maybe 3 or 4 or something like that, Joe. I mean, that might be a record here for
I think it
keep
is. I think it is.
Or sweep. That's right. So, I mean, who knows? We'll see what happens with you guys. Again, a lot of it depends on what goes on with the situation throughout the season. I just want to take a second here to tell you about my friends over at Mohawk Honda. They're over at Freeman's Bridge Road. I work right by there. I get to see the inventory that they have there. They have tons in stock, Hondas, reliable car. I own a Honda. I go there for my oil changes all the time. They do whatever they can to give you that. You want to trade in your car. Like right now, the market is just basically dead. There's not a lot going on. Not a
lot of
many
inventory
cars.
for sure.
They do. They have acres of it. And they also about trade-ins. They'll give you what you really feel you need for your car right there. Give you cash in hand if you want, but also trade in on another vehicle. And you can select over the whole lot what you want. And they will not push you into whatever car they want to push you into what you think they might afford. Whatever is good for you. You want to afford this. You like this. Well, they will work for you. They will put you in the car that you want and the car that you deserve. Go ahead, check them out over at Freeman's Bridge Road and Mohawk Honda. They go out of their way to please you. That's right, Joe. And
they're good people over there.
Oh, absolutely. So we're going to get into our next segment, and it is our team's AFC West's biggest questions, Joe. We've been doing all the biggest questions for the last month or so. Who knows? Yep. We are on to the AFC West now. That is the division that has your beloved Raiders in there, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Denver Broncos and the Los Angeles Chargers here. So let's get right to it, Joe. Let's start off with the Denver Broncos here. Now, what's your biggest question so far? Your first one for the Denver Broncos.
I mean, how could it not start off with who will win the starting quarterback battle? You know what I mean? I mean, you got Drew Lock, you got Teddy Bridgewater. This is going to go on all through training camp. We're hearing, a mix of little tidbits coming out of Denver's camp, and some people are saying, oh, well, some days Drew Lock looks pretty darn good. Some days Teddy Bridgewater looks pretty darn good. So it's kind of like a 50-50 split as of right now. No one's really taking that major step forward and taking the lead. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, the way this thing could boil down now, Teddy Bridgewater didn't get brought in just to be like, we brought in Teddy, but we like Drew Lock better. To be more like a veteran behind Drew Lock type of move. We knew that Drew Lock is coming back from an injury. Teddy Bridgewater is brought in to compete for this job. It's not going to be given to anybody. So let's wait and see what happens in preseason. But if I was to guess right now, I would say this. I would say we already know what Drew Lock kind of is right now. We know that he does make his fair share of mistakes. He does turn the ball over at times. But then he's also flipped the script and completely has made some great plays as well. So I think you would need to see more consistency from Drew Lock in order for him to get this, to win this job. But Teddy Bridgewater, you kind of know For Denver, they're still kind of feeling him out, seeing what he can do, what he's capable of for Denver and their offense. And Teddy Bridgewater, in the end, I think is going to end up winning this job because Drew Lock, again, he does tend to make mistakes. Sometimes they're very costly, and then other times they don't hurt him so much. But Teddy Bridgewater, I feel like as a veteran, he's been there, done that. He's seen a lot of different offenses, and he's seen a lot of different defenses. So I really do believe that in the end it'll go to Teddy Bridgewater.
All right, yeah. I mean, and taking a look at this again, it's seesaw, back and forth. You're hearing different stories every day, and the media down over there in Denver too is following this closely too. They'll tell you one day, I think it's going to be Drew Lock. He's taking first team reps here, but then it's Teddy Bridgewater. You hear about Jerry Jeudy having a good relationship with Teddy Bridgewater as well. These guys are connecting really nicely. You see a good
Noah
Dave. That's the thing is too is with these guys, they're really similar. If you look at their stats of last year too, they're really hand in hand. Teddy Bridgewater barely just had a couple ticks over top of Drew Lock, and you're just seeing one highlight day that looks really great, so you're thinking, it's going to go towards this guy, and then the next day he'd be throwing multiple interceptions, so it teeters back and forth. We're going to follow this closely again, and it's still one of the biggest questions that we're not going to really find out, I think, until the season's about to truly start, I think, for these guys.
Obviously, it's going to be a week before the season starts is when they got to make their decision. They can't let it go too long, so we all know that they're going to give both guys a fair shot throughout the whole training camp. We'll see how they play in preseason because maybe that'll be the tipping point, depending on who excels in the preseason games.
Absolutely. All right, my biggest question here for the Denver Broncos is, will Vic Fangio be out if they have a losing record this season? Again, they're in a tough division here. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs, who've gone to the Super Bowl back-to-back now. They ended up losing last year due to injuries, I would say, though. I mean, it would have been a little closer, I think, that game if they had their offensive line there. But the Raiders, who they're coming on strong now, it looks like they made adjustments to help their defense, so maybe they can step up there and move along. And the Chargers, who are resurging now too, as well, under new coaching,
new management.
New management. Justin Herbert looks like the real deal though too. In a tough division, which makes it kind of hard for these coaches to even try and keep their jobs because it's up and down. You're like, what are you going to do? I mean, it was a tough decision, NFL. So you're not sure. He was brought in to help out the defense and stuff. The defense has done okay, but again, they looked more like they're a run stop instead of a pass stop. You got Von Miller aging and things. So the questions have been had here about Vic Fangio. So if these guys ended up being at the end of this, tail end of this division for the back-to-back seasons here, is he out here? What do you think, Joe?
I mean, there's already been rumors around Vic Fangio of possibly moving on from him, getting a different head coach in as of last year. So those are going to escalate if we see like another poor season from Denver. We got to see something, some kind of productivity. We got to see something where they're trending upward instead of either flatlining or going back or declining. So for Vic Fangio, for this Broncos team, they need to show something. Even if they ended up 500 or even if they just can't lose as many games as they did the year prior. If they show some kind of promise and they win more games than last year, then I feel like that's a success. Is it like, a big deal? Like it just might buy more time for Vic Fangio, at least another year, to see what else they could do. Because we already know that they've heavily invested in the offense. I mean, we've seen them invest in the offensive line. We've seen them invest in the receiving, the weapons around them, the running backs, and the quarterback. With Drew Lock, they still haven't been able to find that true starting franchise type of caliber quarterback. And we all know that Teddy Bridgewater is not the answer long term. He's a short term guy until they do find the answer. So, with all that being said, I think with Vic Fangio, I think he just can't screw it up this year. They can't lose as many or be worse. So as long as they are trending a little bit upwards, if they win 3 to 4 more games than last year, I feel like that's a successful season for them because they are still kind of rebuilding this defense. We know that they got a few holes here and there, and offensively, they don't have the right guy yet at the helm.
Absolutely. And again, you look at back-to-back seasons of losing records. They went 7-9 when Fangio came, and then 5-11 last year. So again, like you said, teams are ready to put these guys on a short leash, and we could see him out here.
Right. Another question I got is, will the Broncos defense improve against the pass? And just like kind of you alluded to earlier is, they're great against the run. And the funny thing is this defense not too long ago was phenomenal against the pass. It was the no-fly zone. You couldn't throw on this team before, and then all of a sudden they went through kind of a little bit of a transition with Vic Fangio coming over, and now they're like the no run. You can't run against this team. No run zone. And now you're able to throw on them. So do I think that they've made enough changes to improve this pass? I tend to think they did. I mean, they really attacked it this offseason. They drafted a kid out of Alabama, the corner, Patrick Surtain, guy that is going to most likely be the starter going forward. I can't imagine why he wouldn't. And they also bring in another corner to play opposite him in Kyle Fuller coming over from Chicago. Another cornerback who's a veteran who's done it very well in Chicago, had a great career so far in Chicago. I think this is going to pay off huge dividends for Denver because now they add a veteran, a guy who's been there, done that, who can do it well, and you add this young stud as Patrick Surtain. If everything works out, if he does develop the way he's supposed to or the way they believe he's going to be, being a high pick, you potentially could have 2 shutdown corners already on this team. And then they managed to tag Justin Simmons, the all-pro safety, to bring him back for another year in Denver. So the secondary not only got better potentially with the new rookie there in Patrick Surtain, but also this could actually help out the pass rush as well. Not like they need a ton of it, but we got Von Miller coming back healthy now, a guy who he's getting a little bit long in the tooth, but he's still got some fuel left in the tank here. And you got some other guys like Shelby Harris playing D tackle, another guy who made the Pro Bowl. So they got some talent. They got some young talent too, like Dramont Jones. They got a guy at a linebacker, Josie Jewell. So they got some nice pieces there. I think this defense overall is going to improve.
Yeah, definitely. We've got Tom Gozlowski in the house, the man himself, Godzilla
There
Media.
he is from Godzilla.
He says here, throws it out there, Melvin Gordon, underrated, Joe. What do you think?
I mean, he's been underrated since he's entered the league. I mean, listen, when he came out of college from South Carolina, I definitely wasn't all about Melvin Gordon. I had my issues with him because of injuries he had in college, you know what I mean? And then coming over for the Chargers, he didn't really make an impact. And we've seen him screw up his first 2 years with the Chargers, fumbling issues. I mean, it was tremendous. So, I mean, he was in jeopardy of, like, basically, getting thrown out real quick, getting cut. And then all of a sudden something clicked. Something clicked in him. He corrected the fumbling issues. He became that real stealthy type of running back for the Chargers and reinvented his career early on. So Melvin Gordon, since he's corrected all his falsifications and able to kind of improve himself every single year, now you're seeing him being one of those tremendous running backs, a guy that can do everything, really. Tremendous receiver out of the backfield, runs great between the tackles, very shifty, and is stronger than he appears. He breaks tackles, for God's sake. So, I would agree with Tom. Absolutely. Melvin Gordon is underrated and underappreciated.
Absolutely. And if you take a look at what you're talking about, the first couple of seasons, again, not a whole lot going on. And then he had that one kind of big year. And then now he's asking for like wants to hold out, bigger contract. And people are kind of like, whoa, you've had like one big year. We're not going to invest all that in there. And then the thing is also that compounded onto it, you got to see what Austin Eckler was able to do in that backfield as well. So everybody was questioning, is it really truly Melvin Gordon's doing there? But then he goes to a team like Denver here and still puts up 986 yards here, almost 100,000 yards up there with a lot of these major running backs out there. So still production amongst them. And that holds a question. So I think a lot of people just still look back at that and want to judge them by that. And being over in Denver, I think, kind of gets, swept away a little bit there. Over in, the Colorado Rockies out there.
Because the team isn't a winning team.
A winning team. You kind of get forgotten over there. So, and once things like that happen to injuries, I mean, look at Saquon Barkley right now getting tagged an injury-prone running back. When he only had like one major injury and then banged up a little bit for a few games in his career, besides that back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. So, what's the problem? But he's a banged-up running back all the time, and he's not worth it. So
Right.
A lot of question marks with the way people view some of these guys.
Absolutely.
All right. My final question here for the Denver Broncos here. You're talking about the defense and how they could change from being a run-stop kind of defense to now a passing type of defense. We got to see how they were when Von Miller was at his best, making the back-to-back Super Bowls here, or getting back to there and winning one finally with Peyton Manning. But the question here lies for the defense is Von Miller now. Will he be here on the roster next year? Because he's getting long in the tooth, and they're going to owe him a lot of money. Right now he's due to make $17.5 million, and he's going to be a free agent in 2022. So they got to make a decision. Do they give him an extension? I mean, or do they just say, all right, come on, we'll let you walk here? I mean, because that's a lot of money off the books, and they could do a lot more with that. And they also have to look at some of these other players that they have to invest in and make contracts for them as well.
Right, and that's the thing too, is Von Miller, he is getting older. You know what I mean? And you don't want to keep paying a guy coming off a major injury. We don't even know this year, because he had that catastrophic injury last year, is that going to stay with him? Is he going to feel, he's not going to be 100% for sure. He's not going to be himself like he was in his prime. So how much is that going to hinder him this year? And will he be able to stay healthy all season long? So that all being said, you also have his contract. You're paying him a ton of money. And because you're paying him a ton of money with a guy who's aging, coming off a major injury, next season, I fully expect the Broncos to either try to trade him before his contract expires, or listen, they played with that idea last year.
Yeah,
they played
did.
with the idea before he got hurt. Hey, do we move on from him? Do we try to trade him now, get some value out of him before he potentially goes to free agency? And I think this is going to be like a dangerous situation for Denver, because they may or may not be able to trade him, because teams are not going to be willing to give you a first-round draft pick for Von Miller right now. As good as he has been, he is older. And if he's going to command a huge salary as well, it's going to be really hard to trade a guy like that. So I think that Denver is kind of preparing themselves for the reality of having him just even walk after his contract is done, and let him test free agency. And they can still tell him, listen, we do want you back, but we're not going to, pay you huge bucks to keep you here. I mean, we'll compete with another team. Like, if you come back with an offer and say, oh, well, they offered me, $12 million a year. You know what I mean? Maybe we'll work with that. But until that happens, I really do kind of expect them to move on from Von Miller, unless they can create a contract or renegotiate a contract to where it's going to help the team out salary cap wise more than trying to just hand over big time cash.
Absolutely. All right, so that's it for the Denver Broncos. Their next team we're going to bring up now is the Kansas City Chiefs here. Not a whole lot of questions, I guess, with this team, because, again, back-to-back Super Bowls.
Right.
Patrick Mahomes, one of the most elite quarterbacks in the league. Tyreek Hill, we heard all the stories. Travis Kelce out there, too, as well. So, Joe, what do you have for your questions here for the Kansas City Chiefs?
I mean, there's not a whole lot of big questions, right?
Yeah.
Just like you were saying, they made it to the Super Bowl back-to-back. I mean, they're going to be looking to push to go back to the Super Bowl yet again this year. Do the Chiefs have the best offense? I mean, that's really kind of all I could come up with. One of the questions that I have, do they have the best offense? I think it's potentially they do. I mean, you look at this offensive line too. That was a kind of like a problem for them last year. They were missing both their tackles in the Super Bowl in the big game, and they were missing starters on that offensive line. So they went and attacked that weakness. You know what I mean? They went out and they pulled off a trade for Orlando Brown Jr. coming over from Baltimore Ravens. He's going to lock down that left tackle spot. You got Laurent Tardif.
Yes, that's right.
He's coming back, but he'll be missing a few weeks. 4 to 6 weeks is what the timetable is as of right now. But who knows? Maybe he could make the Week 1 game. So there's a lot of things that they've done, and they've really not only have they solidified that offensive line, but also you look at their weapons. Mecole Hardman right now is one of the fastest guys in the NFL besides Tyreek Hill.
And he's on the opposite side.
And now he's starting opposite Hill. You know how much that opens up this offense, which is already pretty prolific? And you got Travis Kelce at tight end, who is going to just eat up the middle of the field. Like, I mean, how do you stop an offense like this? Not only have they improved this offensive line, made it so solid, you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming back in his second year. His rookie year, he just fucking decimated.
Yeah.
I mean, he was amazing. I didn't expect it, but wow. I mean, so now they have a feature back. They have an offensive line. They got weapons galore, and you have Patrick Mahomes. So I think the answer is yeah. Like, how could you not say that?
Yeah, at this point, you got to say yes here with what they have. Again, looking to make a run back to the Super Bowl for 3 times in a row. Hopefully, they can come away with another championship here is what their understanding is to keep the band together because, again, as we slowly look at what's going on with these guys, that might be a problem moving forward here. So, for me, it's how long can you keep the whole current roster together here with these guys?
Yeah.
You know the blockbuster the deal with Patrick Mahomes. He's already now we work some of that to try and help some of these other guys out. Travis Kelce is going to be getting older, and he's got a longer contract. We took a look at his contract and it goes back down. I think until he's like 36 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
So. Along the lines, and he just restructured his, so it went all to a signing bonus and not so much onto the cap, against the cap. So Mecole Hardman could start looking for something. So that's the whole deal. These guys want to keep the whole ball running. And while you're getting there and getting to the Super Bowl, you don't want to squander these victories and these wins while you're there because we saw what happened. Look at the Legion of Boom and with the Seattle Seahawks. Once they had to start paying some of those guys, things were happening. Russell Wilson got paid. You saw the band started breaking up a little bit. You know what I mean? You saw other guys, Richard Sherman, go other places, things like that, And there's a problem. They had those 2 runs to get to the Super Bowl, won the first one, had the opportunity to win the second one, and haven't been back since. So for Andy Reid and the Chiefs, Andy Reid's going to be there. He's going to stay there until they probably push him out. But, Patrick Mahomes, these guys, he's got to be their guy too long term. But to try and keep these same group of guys together to stay on that elite status because these other AFC teams, they're getting better every year and they're getting right on their heels. So it's going to be closer and closer every year.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you think, again, how long will it take? Time will tell.
I mean, time will tell, and here's the thing is we've already witnessed some big contract extensions already. Travis Kelce getting one, Patrick Mahomes receiving a humongous amount of money. And just like you were saying, you also got Tyreek Hill, who's seen as one of the best receivers in the NFL. He's in a couple years, I think, his contract's going to expire, and it's like, what is the Chiefs going to do?
And you saw what's going with Tyrann Mathieu as well,
right? Are they going to be able to afford to keep these guys long term, and for how long? Listen, I was amazed by Tampa Bay and what they were able to pull off this past year. I mean, after winning the Super Bowl and high priced players. That I thought at least 1, maybe 2 might sneak away and go to another team, like a Chris Godwin, like a Shaq Barrett, guys that were going to demand a lot of money. They managed to retain not just those 2, but everybody that was on the team last year.
And add. Exactly. That's what I mean. It's like Tom Brady. I think Brady just brings that, to everybody too. It wanted everybody to come join, and they believed in that whole thing. And I think that even shows how much people would buy into what he's selling.
Absolutely.
All right, so what's your other questions here for the Kansas City Chiefs?
All right,
what do you got?
My next question I got is, what's the Chiefs' defense's strongest position? And this if you asked the same thing last year, you could be like, well, their linebackers aren't that great. Their corners were pretty terrible. They did have a couple of guys that came in, like a L'Jarius Sneed. He came in as a rookie, kind of showed some promise, but then got injured out for the year. You look at this team now, and
for me, it's got to be either the defensive line or the secondary, Joe.
That's exactly what I was going to say because you got Jerron Reed comes over from Seattle, one of those dominating D tackles. Chris Jones to pair him up with him. Oh my God! And then you got Frank Clark, who we have to wait and see what happens with Frank Clark now because he's in a little bit of some major trouble.
And everything. Yes,
he could serve jail time. He could. Who knows? I mean, we got to wait and see how that all unravels. But they could be without Frank Clark, and if that's the case, I'm going safety.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Because I mean, you look at the safeties that they have. You know, they got Charvarius Ward, who played really well for them. You got Tyrann Mathieu. Obviously, you all know he's an All-Pro. And then behind them, in terms of depth, in terms of depth, they got guys like Juwan Thornhill. They got Daniel Sorensen also starting next to Tyrann Mathieu. I'm sorry, I kind of screwed up the cornerback there, but. Juwan Thornhill is a starting caliber safety, and as of right now, he's listed as a backup. Also, Will Parks played pretty well for them in an emergency situation where he had to come in and play, and he played pretty darn good. So it's like they have like 4 starting capable safeties. So that's pretty impressive. So I mean, after talking about it now, I would have to go safety.
There you go. All right, yeah. So, I mean, again, especially when you bring up the whole factor with Frank Clark here, when the season starts, that could be completely
we don't know
different
if he's going to be available.
Again, we have heard that charges could be held against him here. So, I mean, not only just fines and missing time with the
jail
NFL,
time.
It could be talking jail time here.
And he's definitely going to miss something.
Absolutely there. So, for the teams right here, the questions for the Chiefs. That's all we've got, I think, for them because there's not a whole lot, I guess, moving forward. All right, next we're going to get up to now Joe's Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders. I got to work on my Chris Berman. You know what I mean?
Joe, the Raiders, Derek Carr is just throwing.
You're close.
Yeah,
You're really close.
I'm trying.
Almost got it,
working it right there. And close, we want to talk about close friends here in the house with us tonight. It's that's freaking loud. I had that too loud. But Cody Raptor's in the house.
What's going on, Cody?
Bam.
Welcome to the show.
Blew my ears out. Oh. All right. Yeah, I think I'm good.
Are you going to recover?
I'm good. Hey, man, I'm feeling good. I got Ray's energy drinks right here. I got the powders. It tastes delicious, sour gummy worms in the house. All right, but we're talking about the Las Vegas Raiders here. What kind of questions here do you have for your Raiders, Joe? What do you got?
I mean, one of the questions is kind of just like stares you right in your face is with the changes with the offensive line, like, is it going to be like, is there going to be some decline in production there, or are they going to be just okay? So because if you remember, they traded away the Pro Bowler center in Rodney Hudson. He's gone to the Arizona Cardinals. They traded also away Gabe Jackson. Forgot where he went. But then they also traded away Trent Brown back to New England because he was unhappy in Las Vegas. So a lot of changes. So you got basically your whole right side of your offensive line and your center. They are, and the Raiders have said that they wouldn't have pulled the trade for trade away Rodney Hudson if they didn't fully believe and were a complete confidence in the backup in Andre James. Obviously, these guys got to prove themselves. So you got Andre James as a new face, Denzel Good, who played. He started last year for the Raiders. He started at guard, and he switched out to right tackle at times when Trent Brown wasn't available, which was pretty much all year. So they were playing with some of these guys already. And then if you remember last year, the Raiders at right tackle they had a guy by the name of Sam Young. Now, Sam Young was a veteran right tackle that was out in free agency, just out there to be had. And he was pretty terrible.
Isn't he a country singer, Sam Young? I don't know.
No, not the same one. But he was absolutely atrocious in defending, pass protection, run blocking. It was horrendous. So it was almost like not having a right tackle. So when you got Denzel Good, who has experience, who started for them and played pretty darn well, you don't miss anything there. Andre James, for me, he's still got to prove something to me. I didn't see him play too much. I've seen him play a couple of games. He had to start, and he did okay. But we'll wait and see. And then you got the rookie that they bring in. He's going to take over that right tackle spot, Alex Leatherwood from Alabama. They love the kid. They absolutely love him. They think he's one of those grinder type of linemen. He's a hard worker. He's in there, and he's got to be better than Sam Young. I mean, that's what I'm looking at. I'm like, So maybe they'll be okay. Maybe they'll kind of. I don't expect them to be as good as last year's cast, but I expect them to at least be solid.
Yeah, I mean, and you talk about an offense that's been moving forward year by year. John Gruden, he's got a long-term plan. He's been bringing this team closer and closer past. He's at 500 last year, but looking to make a run for the playoffs this year. And that offense was ranked top 10 last year. Yeah. But again, now little struggles here on the offensive line. How much of a difference will that make with maybe Derek Carr taking a few more sacks, because he only had 29 sacks last year and looked really great, threw over 4,000 yards. 67% completion percentage. And also, if you take a look at his touchdown to interception ratio, 27 and 9, I think that looks really nice for a guy that gets dogged a lot. So,
right. And that's my point too, is like, for me, the only big question is center. Alex Leatherwood, I think, is an upgrade over Sam Young all day long. So, and Denzel Good, we already know he's solid. We already know that. So, for me, as long as the center can show promise and play pretty darn well, then they'll be all right.
All right, so that brings up my question for the Las Vegas Raiders, and it's been on a lot of people's minds, some fans, but a lot of people in media and other people that just want to dog this guy. I'm talking about Derek Carr now. Now, if they do trend backwards here, and have a losing season this particular year, do they think about extending Derek Carr or maybe moving him again? Because constantly every season at the offseason, we're talking about trading. We heard it with trading him for Eli Manning and things like that back and back for the last couple of seasons now. And again, if you look at his numbers last year, he, I think, had 102 QBR. I mean, I read off the stats already. Looked really good. Probably most comfortable in John Gruden's offense that he ever has. Those guys are tied together. They live next to each other. They're, live, breathing, and everything. He remembers everything he sees. Photographic memory.
It's pretty impressive.
And yes, and he just said he wants to be a Raider for life. He's ride or die.
He's 100% in.
So
Absolutely.
What's going on here? What kind of move do they make here for this? Do they just give him an extension, and at what cost?
And they're already on that way. They're on that path. They've already started talks with having an extension. So obviously, if they're having talks about a possible extension, then they have full confidence regardless of what happens this season. So I truly believe that in the end, in the next offseason that we have, there's going to be some kind of an extension agreement between Carr and the Raiders. So I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I think that's their guy. That's who they like. Nobody as of right now could run it better than Carr, because he's been in the system for a few years now and knows it like the back of his hand. And that's what Gruden really needs. Gruden doesn't want to bring in another guy and try to teach him all over again from scratch to learn all the checks and balances and audibles and everything. So Carr, I mean, listen, he's confident. He knows the playbook like the back of his hand. He executes it extremely well. I mean, there's not too much to change that whole idea. So I totally think that Derek Carr will, in the end, sign an extension. He's going to be a Raider for life.
All right. So what other questions do you have about your Las Vegas Raiders here, Joe, coming into this season?
I mean, how can it not be about the defense? I mean, the defense was so bad last year, or I would say like the last few years, probably like 10 years. They've been terrible. So can the Raiders improve? We know that they've been kind of like huddling around that dead last ranking,
25th, 27th around
can
there.
They get? Can they get to a top 20? In terms of a defense. So can they reach that kind of as a goal this season? There's a lot of changes that have happened. A lot of personnel changes. They've brought in some talent from free agency. They've drafted talent. They've definitely invested a lot in this defense. Now it's time that guys need to step up. Whether they're young, whether they're rookies, whether they're second to 3 year type of guys, veterans, they got to step up. There's something has to show promise on this defense. They've brought in a new D coordinator, so now you have a guy like Gus Bradley coming over from the Chargers, also a former Seattle Seahawks D coordinator, a guy who wherever he's been has created a not I'm not going to say elite defense, but definitely competitive, definitely a competitive defense. So this is going to be his true tell on how good of a D coordinator he is, because if somehow in one off season he's able to improve this defense to maybe top 20, that would be a huge goal to reach. And if they could get there, it would really turn some of those losses from last year into W's, because that's really what they were missing last year, is they didn't have the defense to match that offense. The offense was like you read off the stat, like they were a top 10 offense last year, for God's sakes. But they just didn't have the defense to support them. Now, this year, if this defense could improve to make maybe top 20, maybe 25, something like that, then maybe that's gonna obviously help that offense to get them the football in their hands more often, and they're going to get some more W's out of it.
Yeah, and a lot of it, I think, was not getting the pressure and then leaving those corners in the secondary out there so long. The big plays were happening against that team. We've seen it a lot last year.
And not to mention, with Paul Gunther as their D corner last year, there was a lot of confusion, too. Like, nobody was really sure what their jobs were from time to time. So there was a lot more thinking rather than reacting, and I'm hoping that Gus Bradley, now that he's there, he's simplifying his defense. His defense isn't super complicated, but for the players on the football field, but that allows them to be free and execute the plays and just play ball. Really just have some fun, get out there, play ball, read and react, and maybe with a surplus of guys like they also brought in Robert Yannick Ngakoue, who is one of the more premier pass rushers, and hopefully that's going to help this young defense. He'll be able to help them opposite Max Crosby or Clelin Ferrell, whoever wins the job. So a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah, so we're going through the AFC West biggest questions here. We've got another team to deal with here, but we're going to take a minute to tell you about our friends here at Johnstone Supply in Troy, 6th Avenue in Troy. Heating and ventilation systems. What do you got here about Johnstone Supply, Joe?
Yeah, Johnstone Supply in Troy, New York. If you're looking to upgrade your heating, ventilation, air conditioning, or more in your home, Johnstone Supply in Troy is your place.
Absolutely.
This month, they are offering a special up here for their Fujitsu ductless splits.
Ooh.
We are talking about an energy-saving, ultra-temp model for your home. Right now, they are carrying the new J-Series VRF systems.
Ooh,
These systems will be more efficient and flexible for any setup you have in your home. Plus in stock. That's right. There's an addition to this. Plus in stock, they have for you the Westinghouse made by Fujitsu for the more basic, cost-efficient option. For more information, call them today at 518-272-5922. That's 518-272-5922. Or visit them on 6th Avenue in Troy. Call today or stop by and say hello to our buddies, Tom, James, or Kevin, and tell them you heard about Johnstone from us here on Football on the Know.
That's right.
From Godzilla Media.
Absolutely. All you know-it-alls out there, we are in upstate New York. Go check them out there in Troy. Tell them we sent you, and they'll hook you up down there. Definitely let them know. All right, so next, this is the last team here for the AFC West biggest questions, and we've got the Los Angeles Chargers. That's right. All right, Joe, so what do you got here for your questions for the Los Angeles Chargers?
So my one question would be: is the Chargers' offensive line the most improved position? I mean, we gotta remember too. Like, for how long? It's been like a decade since they had anybody. It could even be longer than that since they had a solid offensive line. Like, we know when Phillip Rivers got drafted, he got drafted to a team like, okay, they have potential. They had Vincent Jackson. They had LaDainian Tomlinson. And they had a actually pretty solid line until that started to get injured and beatered and battered. Like back in 2005. To 2010, that's when they started to lose their veterans. And since then, they just haven't been able to like really kind of bring back that tenacity of an offensive line that would help not only protect Phillip Rivers, but also be able to create those running lanes for the running backs.
They're having a lot of injuries too on this team, especially even on offensive line, just struggling there.
Absolutely, and that's the thing too, is when you look at their roster, look at what they've done. This year's draft, they made it a point in this offseason because they knew now that they're having Justin Herbert move over, because we've seen how amazing he was his rookie year. I mean, I'm actually surprised in how well, not surprised in the fact that I didn't think he was going to be good, but in the fact that how soon he was good. As a rookie to come in here and kind of act as like he was a 10-year vet. Didn't let anything bother him. He made some tremendous plays. Even got the Chargers a few wins all by himself. So their offensive line, they go ahead and they draft Rashawn Slater, who was seen as one of the best tackles coming out, if not the best tackle. They draft him at left tackle. Corey Lindsey, Lindsley from Green Bay, a great veteran center. They bring him to add because one of the Pouncey brothers, who they had as a center, retired this year. They had to do something. They bring over Lindsley, who I'm sorry, that's a great move. Yeah, he's older, but he can still get the job done. Matt Filer from Pittsburgh, the Steelers, a guy who was going to be a starter for the Steelers, I feel like, this year with their offensive line questions. And he chose to move on. He comes over to the Chargers, and you got guys like Ode Abushi, who I'm not 100% in love with, but maybe he can get the job done enough to help protect. And Brian Bulaga, another Green Bay, great. You know what I mean? To lock it down on the right tackle spot. And the biggest thing for them is between Corey Linsley and Brian Bulaga, can they stay healthy all year? Because if they can, this offensive line has the potential to be one of the better ones in the league.
Yeah, I mean, again, trying to make improvements because, again, they've got that young quarterback. They want to keep him healthy, keep him upright. And I think they feel like they're in an up-and-coming kind of motion right now and have these veterans hold down the fort until they can get some of these get the team a little younger here. I mean, you do have Mike Williams hit their wide receiving core. Keenan Allen's still playing at an elite level here, a high level, but, drafted 2013, they got to start getting some more weapons behind here. They don't have Hunter Henry anymore, but they plug in Jared Cook, but he's on his tail end of his career too as well.
Oh, he's going to be good, though, for this offense.
Oh, it should be nice for this offense, absolutely here. And you want to talk about the offense. My question for them is how much will the coaching staff affect the team? I mean, you've got Brandon Staley here with them. He's more of a defensive-minded coach here. And then you've got Joe Lombardi running the offense. A whole new changeover because you had Anthony Lynn last year and everything. And this team played well, and they were doing remarkably well for this division. Now you got a change of guard here. Now, what's going to happen with these guys and how much will affect this team moving forward? Austin Eckler still a key cog piece here for these guys. We just talked about him being a nice running back when you didn't have Melvin Gordon there, and he's shown you that when given an opportunity, he can rush with one of the best too as well.
And that's the reason why they were able to move on from Gordon and not meet his demands of paying him big-time money is because when they saw what Austin Eckler could do, hey, wait, what? He can handle the starting job. We don't need to pay Melvin Gordon just to keep him. You know what I mean? We don't have to pay him big money. We got Eckler, who we're not paying. We're paying a fraction of his salary, and he's able to do just as much in terms of production as Gordon. So, we're good. Go ahead. Find yourself a new team. And Austin Eckler has been killing it ever since, despite being injured. Now, that's the other thing, too, is last year he was seen as going to be not only the featured back, but everyone was so excited to see what he could do in a whole season, and he ends up getting injured for most of the year, if not the whole thing. So now you look at what this offense has, what their capability is. I mean, if there's any indication from last year, if Herbert can kind of lock into what he was able to do and be successful last season, in terms of what they've gone through this offseason, they've improved every aspect of their team. So I think for sure that this offense is on the up and up. And what can we expect? We don't know. It's a brand new staff. We know that they're going to have some cards hidden up their sleeves to do some different types of plays that we're not normal to see, and that. But I really do believe that in the end, they're going to be more of a balanced team, not going to be so heavily on the run. So I think they're going to kind of, between the run and the pass, is going to be kind of a 50-50 balance, and I think it's going to make them even better because of it. Now that they've seen what Justin Herbert can do from last year, they're just going to improve on that because they have weapons. They drafted a guy in 2019 by the name of Tyron Johnson, who, if he keeps developing and trending the way he's going, he could be another starter or another guy that can fill in when Keenan Allen does move on. And then they got some guys that are kind of under the radar. They got a KJ Hill. They got a Jalen Guyton, Josh Palmer, who they drafted this year in the 3rd round. So they got some nice up-and-coming types of receivers. And, they're going to be kind of rotated in and out. But overall, all in all, I think that we're going to see a kind of more balanced. And to me, the biggest decipher of all this is the defense. What are we truly going to see from the defense? Because we're normally we've seen Gus Bradley run this defense. You know what I mean? In the last few years for them. And they had a pretty darn good defense with the same kind of talent. They were able to be like that top 15 type of defense in the NFL when they were all healthy, and which was not very often. But now you don't have Gus Bradley, so you don't really know what kind of a defense they're going to run. Are they going to run more zone? Are they going to do more man? Are they going to do like a hybrid? Are they going to send more pressures? So we still that's kind of still up in the air. So I'm not really sure what to say about the defense. But all I will say is that they got a tremendously talented roster, and let's see. We're not going to see anything in preseason because nobody shows their hand in preseason on what they're going to really run. But I guess we're going to have to wait till week 1 to see what that defense is capable of.
Absolutely. So, I mean, talking about defense here, what kind of question do you have here about that defense?
I mean, for the defense, I'll say this. Can the Chargers defense be the best in the division? You know, is it going to be the best? And you might be like, you're crazy. They're not that good. You know, they never really end up in the top 10 or anything like that. Well, here's the thing. This is what I'm looking at. Now, if you remember the one year that Gus Bradley had this team pretty healthy, right, when they had Derwin James' rookie year, and they were phenomenal. I mean, Derwin James made a big impact on this team his rookie year, and then 2 years from then, he's been injured ever since. Like he just misses the whole season the last 2 years. So now they're getting him back. He's 100% healthy right now. If he can stay healthy, this is going to pay huge dividends for this defense, and it's a very talented defense. It is definitely improved since Derwin James has been his rookie year. I mean, you look at what they have. They have Joey Bosa. They grab Justin Jones. It fills in it. And one of the guys that I'm really I really wanted this kid coming into the draft at D-tackle, Jerry Tillery. This kid is not only is he a massive D-tackle, but he is very hard to block, and he creates pressure right up the middle. So they also bring in a veteran in Linval Joseph, a guy who, he's on the tail end of his career, but he's still, a capable D-tackle. And I think that alongside a guy like Jerry Tillery, I think his game is going to excel. So, and then you look at their linebackers with Kenneth Murray, a very young player, rookie last season. In his second year, he's just going to get better. He was amazing with being able to play pass defense and to attack the run game and to even at times rush the quarterback. And then you look at their secondary with Derwin James coming back, with Nasir Adderley, who's kind of making a name for himself at safety, Michael Davis at corner, and Chris Harris, who had not only a pretty healthy year last year, but also a pretty darn good year with this Chargers defense. So I feel like with all the young talent that they have and a couple of veterans sprinkled in, that their defense potentially could be the best in this division. And this, if this offense is any indicator from last year of how well they can play, they could be a surprise team in this division for sure.
I think there's, certain things about these defenses. You see the Raiders trying to improve their defense, not doing so well here. The Chiefs' defense has kind of been up and down, I mean, that's what I mean, and they seem to perform in some of those bigger moments, and Chris Jones being there during playoff time, and it's looking big.
And that's the thing with that Chiefs defense is before it was like, they're weak at corner, so that we can just attack with the pass. This year is going to be a little bit different. They got some young, up-and-coming defenders that I think is going to not only improve this defense, but this division is going to be a real fun division to watch because I feel like there's going to be so much competition.
Yes.
That it's going to be super, super close when you get down to the stretch.
Yeah, and I think a lot to do with the Chargers is always the health issue. I mean, when you talk about how great they could be. Joey Bosa, again, never out there. Melvin Ingram was not even with the team anymore. I mean, he had his issues too, so you never really had these guys both on the field as much. Only that one, I think it might have been a rookie year or sophomore year of Joey Bosa, where they both had 20 sacks or so apiece or so, did really well. And now if you look at, Vic Fangio in that defense for the Broncos trying to hopefully beef up that aerial assault, and stop the pass here. Very different types of philosophies amongst all these different coaches. It'll be interesting to find out who might have the best defense in this particular division. So that's it. That's it for our AFC West's biggest questions. Next week, we're going to do a double stack next week.
Yeah,
next
we're
week,
doubling up.
We're running out of time. Season's coming. I mean, we have all kinds of preseason games tomorrow night, tomorrow and this weekend, all the way through Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's amazing. So we're all getting hit with all of it. I know everybody's excited. They could not wait for this to happen. So we're going to speed it up. We're going to do the AFC and NFC South all in one shot tomorrow next week. So make sure you guys join us for that. A lot of up-and-coming stuff. Like I said, we announced our Monday Night Football thing with Smokey Bones in Albany, so Godzilla Media will be there every Monday night. So come on down if you guys live in the Albany area, upstate New York. Come check us out, say hi, and we'll have some fun with that throughout the season. And also, don't forget, if you guys are feeling down sluggish, you go to Raise here, repsports.com. Raise Energy, promo code Raise Them Up. That's right. You get the 15% off, and they have all kinds of deals right now. I think they're giving away a couple rainbow cans still.
They got a couple of promos right now. You can order. There's like 4. Was it rainbow flavor? Rainbow flavor energy drink that right now that you can grab. Just got to pay shipping. It's $10, and you get 4 of them sent to your doorstep. Also, there's plenty of other promos. You can go ahead on their website, repsports.com, search all these different things, and they don't just have energy drinks. They also got like protein cupcakes. They got protein powder. They got
Focus pills. Yeah,
to go
definitely.
energy packets to take with you. This stuff is absolutely amazing. You don't get any crash after the energy wears off. It's truly amazing. It's got amino acids, electrolytes, no sugar. I feel fantastic still, as we're getting to the end of the show, and it's really good stuff. I mean, really good. So make sure you go and get yourself repsports.com, get you some, enter the promo code, Raise Them Up, and get 15% off your order unless you're going to do one of the promos. Then you just get the pay shipping and you get that order. Also, thank you, everybody, for checking us out, for supporting us. If you like the show, if you like what you see, if you love talking about football, feel free on the comment section to let us know if you have any questions, if you got any opinions on what we talked about, or if you just want to vent. If you want to say something about your team, go ahead and do so. We are here to interact with you guys. So please don't be shy. Comment below. We will read them off and give you a shout out as well. If you're new to the show and you want to find out how to join us, you head over to Facebook or YouTube, become a know-it-all. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button to get to subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to get all the notification when we go live. And we're also on Twitter at FB_no. So I think we covered everything.
He covered everything. Thanks a lot to all of our sponsors, Mohawk Honda, Johnstone Heating and Ventilation, and Buck Environmental Solutions as well too. They just came by and sprayed my whole yard for ticks. I'm happy about that. So thank you so much, and we will see you guys next time.
Join us next week from 8 till 10 Wednesday night for more Football on the Know with Jim and Joe.